Hey Toy fans, welcome back to another week of Project Geek Week. We took a week off last week because we were at Planet ComiCon. We saw a lot of cool stuff, and one of the things that happened there is actually going to be in our news for this week. But with me this week, I've got Greg.
Hey there.
And I've got JT.
Hey, hey.
All right, guys, so we're going to get into the show pretty quickly today and kind of fly through some topics. We don't have as much time as we normally have, or we're a little bit pressed for time this week, but we didn't want to, come do another week without you guys having another show. So to start with, we're actually going to start with the gaming news. One of the things we saw when we were at Planet ComiCon in KC was a panel featuring Ming-Na. Now, you guys might know her as the voice of Mulan or Agent Melinda May. Yeah, Aki Ross on Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Yeah. Of course, she's Agent Melinda May on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But she was there just kind of talking about all of her projects in general, namely S.H.I.E.L.D. But while she was at the convention, she was actually asked a question by a fan of the audience. And Greg, why don't you kind of talk about it since you covered Disney Infinity?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, first she got asked about doing voice work, and she kind of hinted that she'd been doing some recording for some video games. And then somebody asked her what we can look at with Mulan in the future. And she mentioned that she's been in the booth recording for Disney Infinity 3.
Which is incredible, right?
Which is awesome.
That's
because
awesome.
Yeah.
Technically, she's both confirming the existence of Disney Infinity 3 and that Mulan is going to be in the game. But
right, yeah. The game hasn't even been announced yet, let alone the characters. So.
I mean, it's highly anticipated that Disney Infinity 3 is going to come out. But
right. So now we don't know if she's a playable character. We don't know if
true.
she's an NPC, but we have to assume
a
strong female character from a Disney movie is going to be a playable character.
Absolutely.
Especially being a lead role, she's got to be
exactly right. So that is really cool, though. I mean, for Greg and I, at least, I don't know that we've ever been there when a leak has happened.
No,
and,
I got to basically...
Ming-Na definitely said that, and it definitely leaked. So.
I got to break the news on my website and actually got cited in a couple places. So
So go ahead and tell us. What is your website? Go ahead and tell us.
DisneyInfinityCodes.com, and if you go to that homepage, you can see the story on Ming-Na as well as my regular weekly deals posts and all that stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And of course, it was on his Twitter account. So if you guys are following Greg, if we get another exclusive like this, you'll definitely get your chance to catch it. So it was really cool, though. And Planet ComiCon overall was really, really great.
Great experience.
So we might touch some more on that as we talk about Arrow this week.
Yes.
But let's go ahead and move on with the gaming news. We want to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 and Hideo Kojima. And Jay, why don't you go ahead and let us know what's going on?
Yeah, earlier this week, Hideo Kojima and Konami had talks, and I guess they were deciding to part ways with each other. So sad. Oh, it's so sad.
The little Fox logo is gone from everywhere.
Oh, everywhere. Fox engine, Fox logo, everything. Kojima had his hands in so many different projects. I know he was also working on Silent Hill for Konami. So there's just so many things that he has touched in the gaming world through Konami that might lose their kind of magic. I hope they don't. But I mean, he is the inspiration behind so much, especially Metal Gear. Metal Gear has gone for such a long time, from original Nintendo all the way to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That's saying a lot for a series, as long as it's been running. So hopefully they get that going. I know they're still working together to kind of finish that project up. I don't know where Silent Hill is. I hope it's not just gonna disappear out of nowhere. Yeah, that'd be kind of sad because they have a lot of. They have a lot of things going on. I know they put out PT, the playable teaser, last year on PS4. So hopefully that project is still in the works, and hopefully Kojima still has his hands on that. And then I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, Fox logo's gone. Everything is gone.
And isn't it true that at least the rumor is that the Konami employees that were working on Metal Gear are now on contract basis? Because Hideo's on like a contracted employee.
Yeah, he's basically a free agent right now. And he can kind of do what he wants. And I mean,
go work for Sony.
Go work for Sony.
Yeah.
Somehow I think there's a contract he signed that says he can't just go do that. But we'll see.
We'll see.
There's probably. I know within the gaming industry, there's a time frame that you can't go to another company after you part ways with another company. So hopefully that time frame is very short, and we see him get some things off the ground. He might start his own gaming company. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, if anyone is deciding to have his hands touch anything. I know he's even said that he's willing to loan out the Fox engine to any developer that wants to recreate Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay.
So they could have an updated version of that.
Nice.
Maybe
let's get it done.
That could happen. Maybe he'll do that himself. We don't know.
That'd be great. And maybe if we don't get Metal Gear 1 redone, we get sort of a Mighty Number 9 situation where it's like Metal Gear Solid remade, just not Snake.
Yeah. So we'll see.
So that'd be great. So now I got to say, one thing I think is pretty detrimental here is you take Hideo out of the equation with Konami.
Yeah.
What have they done in the last 15 years?
DDR, I guess.
Yeah, right?
That's pretty much it.
DDR
I mean, they had Never Dead, which was not a big. I think it actually flopped, if I can be so bold to say that.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
flop.
can't think of any other properties that jump out at me.
The only thing I can think of would be Castlevania.
Oh,
but
okay.
even Lords of Shadow 2 was still extreme disappointment compared to the first game. So I was like, I wouldn't count that as a big heavy hitter or a AAA blockbuster that they can count on bringing in revenues. So
Sure.
it's
Pure speculation, then. Is it possible that Hideo Kojima tried to assert his level of importance with the company? They felt threatened, and now he's out.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, what's the future of Konami hold? I mean, can they survive without the Metal Gear franchise? Well, they'll sell the franchise, I guess.
Yeah.
Can they survive without Hideo? Can they, stick around?
I mean, Star Wars survives past Lucas, so.
Well, yeah, so
that's
far. So I guess
possible.
we'll see. So I guess
Yeah.
it's all in the quality of the team that picks
This
up.
is true.
So, well, then we also got some really big news from Nintendo this week. And go ahead and
Yeah.
share with us what's going on with that.
Nintendo, partnering with DeNA mobile gaming, has decided to go into mobile gaming. I think that's huge. I think that's a big step for Nintendo, kind of getting out of their comfort zone.
Yes.
I don't know if we're going to see Mario on handheld mobile just yet.
I don't think they want to compete with themselves, basically.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
Mario on their own proprietary console,
Yeah.
or handheld, so.
Yeah, and seeing them go against like the Nintendo 3DS, they just launched a new one last month, kind of competing in that handheld arena against themselves is kind of a weird shot for Nintendo.
Yeah.
But I think they're reaching out. They've been struggling as a company with console sales, with
Sure.
game sales.
Sure.
So I think they're just trying to reach out into a new area that they've never gone into. Partnering with DeNA, I know DeNA is a huge company now. They started out in, I think, 1999 making mobile games on smaller cell phones, and before Android and iPhone came out, they started doing that. They kind of got themselves into some things. They got a new Transformers game launching this year.
DeNA does.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've also launched quite a few other games with Star Wars and Marvel games, just on iPhone and Android, and they've done pretty well for themselves. They're kind of big. I didn't know actually how far their reach was, but they reach globally. So that's kind of big for Nintendo. I don't want to see Nintendo go the full route of in-app purchases though.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do not want microtransactions.
I saw a quote about this whole thing where somebody was trying to convince Nintendo by arguing, what if you paid 99 cents to have Mario jump a little higher?
Oh,
Yeah.
That
see,
just
no,
sounds
no.
so terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a fan of that
Yeah.
at all. Certain games, like, you can get away with it. Like Marvel Puzzle Quest, I know we're all kind of playing that.
Yeah.
You can kind of get away with that where, you boost so much. You can add gold coins to add new characters. And Marvel kind of has that history where they have a ton of characters. You want them? Yeah, okay, I'll pay for them. But like Mario and Luigi, like those characters have always been readily available for us.
Sure.
And if they start doing that, where you have to pay for characters or have to pay for extra mushrooms or extra lives, I'm not gonna do that.
Thinking of Mario 3, I think if they did a pay-to-play model, I would like to see it where the P-Wing or the Warp Whistle are what you're paying for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To kind of basically your way to help you get through the level.
Yeah. More advancing power ups, I think.
Right, yeah. Stuff that if you don't have the skill to get through, still got a way to get through. You'll have to pay it your way through.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, and let's see what else we have here on our list of
We
topics.
got Family Guy, Star Trek.
Yes. So
in Family Guy, the Quest for Stuff, I think it's called.
yes.
Yes.
Just yesterday, they started their Star Trek promotion, and we've determined that you have to get to level 3, open up Al Harrington's shop, I think it is, to actually access that content, which none of us have done yet.
Right. We all started the game yesterday with this Star Trek announcement, so it's pretty exciting.
So I guess we'll have more on that once we actually see some of the content. But
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about hands-on impressions then. I guess I'll start with mine. I don't do a lot of mobile gaming. Honestly, Marvel Puzzle Quest, Peggle, anything by PopCap and Puzzle Quest are basically what I know as my mobile gaming experience.
I also played the Injustice mobile game.
Oh yes, the
which was a
Injustice
lot of
mobile
fun.
game, which is actually a
That
lot of
was
good.
fun. That was fun.
Great connectivity with console
Oh, yeah.
games there
Oh,
too.
yeah.
But with the Family Guy game, what I really enjoyed is that it almost feels like I'm playing the Sims version of Family Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got a job that I'm training them to do. I'm earning money. It's kind of
You
like
get to build the town.
build a
however you
town.
want.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't think of the name of it there, but
Very
Animal
much
Crossing.
so.
You got your jobs and you
Yeah.
got to go make people happy by doing specific things.
I was
So-
thinking of a Dark Cloud comparison.
Yes,
as well.
Dark Cloud,
that's
exactly.
It's not quite
Yep.
the same because it's not like Quagmire wants to be across from Lois or anything like
True,
that.
true, and there's not like the random dungeon that has you earning the stuff that you're building the city with.
I'm kind of doing that on my own a little bit. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, I put the stripper pole in Quagmire's backyard.
Right, yeah, so it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
It
So-
only fits.
And I guess there's a Kashi Midas unlocked where Quagmire can walk around in just a Speedo, so it's
That's awesome.
yeah. So I mean,
It
the game.
definitely incorporates the Family Guy humor very well,
the
and it's got
license-
voice acting from
Everybody.
everyone.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah. I
everybody's
was
in it.
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Even the animated scene at the beginning of the game when you first started, so you
Yeah.
felt like
It
you're
was like
watching
an episode, yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't played a lot of mobile games like this, but my hands on it's just I'm really like how they're using everything, and if they're using the Star Trek license even half as well as they're using the Family Guy license in this
Yeah.
game, it's gonna be really exciting to see what
I'm
we
excited to see the Star Trek stuff kind of start taking place.
Yes.
Because I'm very excited for that. I know they did a great job with the Star Wars movies, and then I want to see how they get the licenses incorporated because Peter, oh my God, he always takes it to the next level.
He does, yeah.
and then the spoops going on in there. I played Simpsons Tapped Out.
Oh, yes,
and
tell us about that.
It's exactly the same. Like
Oh, okay.
the game feels exactly the same. You're just doing little quests. You're doing like little mindless tasks, leveling up everybody, getting coins to unlock new features, new characters, all that stuff.
Okay.
Exactly the same. Building the town, building Quahog the way you want to build it. Everybody's different. You can kind of jump into other people's game and jump out and all that. So it's really good. I like the foundation of the game, and then I can't wait to see where it goes whenever you start getting really, really leveled up.
And have we ever seen Simpsons do a licensing thing like this?
Yes, actually, Simpsons they've done quite a few things. They've done like Kiss. They do like all, because Simpsons has so many licenses they're able to tap into and tap out of and and get into. So we've seen them do quite a few other little different things. Most of the stuff that Simpsons does is holiday based, so they'll do something like with St. Patrick's Day that just recently happened. They do Valentine's Day, Christmas, Halloween, all that. So hopefully this game kind of follows that pattern too, not just with the licensing, but maybe we see some other stuff
Regular
on top
events,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, then I guess with that, it seems like what we're all playing right now is
It's
Marvel
definitely-
Puzzle Quest.
Marvel
and then,
Puzzle Quest, yeah.
The Family Guy Get Stuff.
Absolutely.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so a lot of fun there. And I will want to put out the invite, guys. We're going to be doing a lot of Family Guy gaming right now just because we all want to get to that Star Trek content. But Marvel Puzzle Quest, I think it's safe to say that we could use people's help in our alliance.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
join up.
our alliance is Cerebro616, and I'll put that on the screen. But if you guys have Marvel Puzzle Quest, it's free to download. You don't have to spend money unless you want to expand your roster or buy specific cards. You can enjoy the game exactly for what it is without dropping a cent into it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look up the Cerebro616 Alliance, we'll go ahead and add you. That way, every time we play, if you play daily, we'll get extra bonus items so we can keep building up
And
our
there's
team.
like 7 or 8 of us in that alliance now. For everybody who plays each day, you get 10 extra points. To
Yeah.
spend,
Exactly.
so, yeah.
And every time we do well in events, it cascades through everybody.
Yep.
If we're all unlocking stuff together, we're getting better cards together.
Oh,
So feel free to join in and help us out. So
Go back to Avengers TV spot?
yeah, let's go to the Avengers TV spot for the next one. So we got a new trailer for Avengers this week, and honestly, when I heard there was a new TV spot, I thought we're gonna get a lot of stuff that we already saw with the first and second theatrical trailer. We actually got basically an entirely new footage all the way through.
It was
this
a
thing.
new
Oh, yeah.
type of trailer too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw on YouTube they called it the character trailer, and
Oh,
that's,
yeah, I could see that.
That's fair
Yeah.
because they kind of go. One
They did
by
like a
one.
roll call. Yeah.
Yep.
So we saw that too. It was interesting in the trailer that Tony kind of acknowledges that he's not the leader. You know, and the marketing very much for the first movie because Iron Man was so popular, they definitely tried to play it off like Iron Man was a central character. But in this trailer, Tony's like, no, this is all Cap. I'm just supplying the brains and the money and everything, and it's Cap's show.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I kind of like seeing that that's more true to what the Avengers are.
Yeah.
We
You
got
think
this-
that maybe because in Iron Man 3 when he loses his capacitator, like
Yeah.
maybe something out of him is just like, I don't want to be the leader. You know
Yeah,
what
I can see
Like
that.
he just kind of is broken. He
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
so much go on and he's just like, I'm kind of done being
And
the wise guy.
I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know how deep into the movie that is either. It's possible.
Yeah.
True.
We're speculating. I don't know. Have we said this on the show before? But it's highly speculated from at least the two of us that Rhodey is not going to survive this film.
Yeah, you'll notice,
So-
and
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's spoiler or not. We don't know anything. We're just pure
Yeah,
conjecture.
this is purely speculation.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that he's at the party at the beginning of the movie,
And he hasn't been in any of the
Any
other
of the-
trailers.
Yeah, none of the other
anywhere.
trailers, like, they have everybody coming in for this thing. There's not a single War Machine. So it seems like part of Tony's lesson for kind of reawakening the Ultron program might be that Rhodey bites it. And that makes it kind of personal for him.
Maybe it's their Coulson.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the
kick
Coulson
like
moment.
that,
I mean,
yeah.
it's the Joss Whedon death moment.
Yeah,
But you know,
yeah.
it makes sense too because we know at this point there are no more Iron Man films coming. Just Iron Man in other people's movies.
Yeah.
So there's really no place for Rhodey to show up. You know, I mean, Avengers
Anywhere else,
2
yeah.
could kind of be his
I
swan
doubt
song.
we're gonna have a War Machine movie. So.
Yeah, right. So, all interesting things to keep in mind. But I will say it was also notable too in this trailer that we see Quicksilver speak for the first time.
Yes.
And it's not a huge detail, I guess, but it's worth noting that he has sort of a European, maybe Eastern European accent.
I would say it's worth noting, especially relative to Days of Future Past, where he did not.
Well,
have
that's
that
true.
at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I would say Eastern European is also possible. Kind of more in line with the backstory of the characters.
Yeah.
Being from Wondergore Mountain, and they just had this like European sort of backstory. They lived with gypsies for a little bit, so it kind of makes sense if that's sort of the ethnicity, I guess, if you want to call it that they're going for with Quicksilver.
We didn't hear Wanda speak at all, so that
True.
was all we saw of her was when she comes out, and right after Hawkeye said, "If you leave that door, you're an Avenger."
That's right.
And my thought process, I'm like, oh, this is their debut as Avengers, so
Yes.
that might be something that they kind of get into. I know in the first two trailers, the second trailer, we see Cap get punched by Quicksilver.
Yes.
So that means that something has to switch. Either they start out as good guys and then they are undercover as evil, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So hopefully something comes to play of that.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Cap, I love the shot in the trailer where he throw his shield at Thor and Thor hits it and it goes to all the Ultron robots.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great sort of visual.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
got a good amount of that actually in this most recent trailer, especially for how short it is.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I gotta think, as much as we're seeing in these trailers, there's probably so much more that we haven't seen
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
So it's gonna be exciting to see how this movie comes together.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and guys, we will be reviewing that movie, just so you know. If you're
Oh,
excited
yes.
to see what we think of that film, we are probably gonna record a show within 48 hours of all of us seeing that movie together.
Yeah.
So just be on the lookout for that coming up. So with that TV spot out of the way, the next thing we want to touch on, and this is kind of a last-minute addition to our show, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 44 from IDW. Now this is the relaunch of the book with Kevin Eastman writing. I don't think Peter Laird's involved. The art in this book was actually done by... now of course I'm not ready for this here. This is last minute. But Kevin Eastman, Bobby Curnow, and Tom Waltz did the story work in this. I'm not sure which one of them is actually contributing to art, or if all three of them are. But this is kind of a grittier, sort of modern take on the Ninja Turtles. They've been retelling the origin. There's been a lot of mysticism to this book. Lately, though, they've kind of been doing this big mutagen war. We've seen Rocksteady and Bebop introduced. We've seen Alloplex, a character who I don't even think existed in the original continuity, show up. And it's kind of just been all-out mutant wars. We've been building and building to this big showdown with Shredder and Krang and kind of the merging of Dimension X at New York. And with this particular issue, number 44, we got a pretty big sort of change to the Turtles dynamic.
Yeah.
And I'll just go ahead and say it. Spoiler warning first, so take a second, guys, if you want to skip ahead. But Donatello looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
Rocksteady and Bebop
It's
just...
the first time I've seen them actually be effective.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Especially
Yeah.
if you grew up on the 80s cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always got defeated.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, these
They
guys
were
are...
a joke back
Yeah,
then.
they
you know?
really
They
were.
Bulk and Skull. Of the
Yeah.
Turtles.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe
Exactly.
it. So they're really scary in this book, though, and they easily enjoyed just destroying Donatello. They didn't have any remorse about it. They wanted to see what they could do, and they did it. And then they're like, "All right, let's go tell the boss. Job's done." And they
Yeah.
just kind of wipe their hands.
Seeing
and they're off and away.
Rocksteady with that sledgehammer is just like, oh, you know you are in trouble
Yeah.
when you come and you see a giant rhino with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that scared the crap out of me.
Well, I mean, it's just drawn so shockingly too, I guess
Yeah,
is the best way to
yeah.
put it. I mean, you don't really see the direct hit. I mean, you see Rhino, you see Rocksteady going in for the shot,
Yeah.
and then the next shot you've got is just the hand on the ground,
Yeah.
and they're walking away like mission accomplished, and they say, I can't believe you split him in half, is basically, and they're talking about
Yeah.
how his shell is just broken. I mean,
Yeah,
really shocking. Like,
that was weird.
I've read this title off and on. I haven't read it consistently all the way through, but I've been impressed every time I picked up the book. And I really enjoyed the Ghostbusters Ninja Turtle crossover that I think Greg's working
Yeah, I
through right
started
now.
it.
So the modern Ninja Turtle stuff, it's definitely darker than what we're getting on Nickelodeon,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's not a bad thing. I mean, each one is kind of its own sort of take on the story, but I gotta say, man, as somebody who's watched every Ninja Turtle incarnation and has read a lot of the comics, I won't say I've read all of them, it was just really kind of a shocking moment to see Donatello just laying on the ground at the end of this issue.
It's like all the people, like when we were kids, we watched these shows, and now that we're adults, we're writing them, but we're writing them to be more serious.
Exactly.
I mean, the Bulk and Skull comparison, it reminds me of Power/Rangers, where Bulk and Skull are there when
Oh, yes, yeah.
what is it, Rocky dies, or no, Jason
Jason
Yeah.
dies, yeah.
Jason and Kimberly are in the car together, and
Yeah.
Yep.
and they're there.
Yeah, and they're evil punks. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So, but yeah, overall, I mean, I enjoyed the book. I think the art's really great. Like I said, it's definitely kind of a grimmer, darker sort of art style.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive, but the book overall is really, really good. And even though we've kind of spoiled the big moment of the book, I think you guys should definitely check it out. It's definitely not like a Ninja Turtle book you've seen in the past. And one thing that, again, that's really fun about this book is they're pulling in all those toys from the 80s that you remember collecting. They're still in this book. They're all actual characters with actual, like, feelings and characteristics that kind of make them individual from other people. So it's really cool. At least for us, I know we had a few Ninja Turtle toys growing up. To see these characters that I remember as toys now being like fully fleshed out characters in this book. You had quite a few
Turtles,
too?
Yeah.
Okay, so a good book though, guys. And 44 might be a good jumping on point, even though kind of a major thing just happened. But it also might be a good place to kind of see how the mythology changes now from this point moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all enjoyed the book, so definitely we give it a recommendation. Check it out.
I would say I'm not yet convinced that Donatello is dead for good, but I don't know the story well enough. Maybe
Sure.
it fits in, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting. We'll probably keep an eye out maybe for the next issue then.
Oh yeah.
So our next book that we want to touch on is Star Wars #3. Now, we've been reading and reviewing this book with you guys on all of our shows here. This, of course, still has Jason Aaron on the writing and John Cassaday on art, Lauren Martin on colors. And this issue seems like it's probably the last of the opening arc for the comic. Typically, comic book arcs can be 4, 5, 6 issues long, but it really feels like after this third issue, they're done with their opening story. And I kind of like that. I mean, they give us just kind of a punch into the new universe. And I think we got some great heroic moments. Greg, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you think of the book?
This particular issue, we got, I guess, the continuing action from the previous. We saw Chewbacca for the first
Yes.
time. Well, not
Yeah.
for the first time, but
Well,
we
he was
saw him
kind of absent all the second
Yeah,
issue.
he took
yeah.
the shot in the first one, I think, but that was really all we saw of him. And then this one, he actually kind of broke in and said stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And we saw some more aggression from Vader. Luke, it looked like he crashed in his speeder.
Yes.
And he thought he was done, although obviously we know that's not true. And Vader took out the walker that Han and Leia were in.
Yep.
And then at the very end, like the preview a little bit, we saw, was it Tusken Raiders, I guess?
Yeah, I'm kind of foggy on what that was about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They pointed out Kenobi's old house.
Yeah.
They did. They don't know he's gone.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't know he's gone.
Yeah.
And then we see in the house, he's got some box that says "For Luke" on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's in the box?
I wonder. Yeah, let's get that 7 reference
Yeah.
out of the way. I kind of wonder about that too. And JT, let's tell us your opinion on the book, and then maybe we'll talk about what we think might be in that box.
Thought it was great. Artwork is still impeccable. Coloring is great. I'm loving this. The pacing of the story is really what's got me. It's kind of keeping the action going in between all the like funny banter between Han and Leia. That's still
Which is
really
still
great.
phenomenally written.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
really got a feel for that.
It's cracking me up, and just seeing her whenever Han's kind of hunched over
Oh,
and like
yeah.
can't say anything. She's like, "I like you that way."
Yeah.
And you're just like, "Oh, okay." That really caught me. And then like. Seeing C-3PO just kind of doing his normal banter, going back and forth with Admiral Akbar, saying, "You should have really sent me on a more diplomatic mission." And then I want to understand what Wookiees say, because Han
right?
seems to have it down.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. But like seeing everybody back together, and then just Luke going for the straight up Jedi action, dude.
Oh
Like,
my God, man.
He is like in it.
They
you
were
know?
about ready to just cancel the mission that they
Yeah.
were on, and Luke's like, no, you know, we came, we're gonna take out this base, and he does it.
Yeah, he
Yep.
does it
Yeah.
single handedly, and
And I gotta say, Vader in pursuit of him,
Yeah.
that moment, man, where the guy's about to say, I can't remember the exact phrasing of it, but the soldier who sees Vader coming says something to the effect of, you know, duck, or I'm about to lose my head over this, and then Vader just takes it clean off with the
Yeah.
ship he's flying in. Like,
Yeah.
he means
Vader's
business.
cold.
he means
Yeah.
business. Yeah, he
I
means business.
haven't read the Vader comics at all. Have you read them?
No, I haven't
No,
read
not
it.
yet.
So I'm
I
curious if
think I'm
that's-
gonna go
yeah.
ahead and start reading Vader, because this kind of like puts me in a mood to be more
Yeah.
dark
Yeah.
and look at Vader in a new light. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long time since I think Vader's been really menacing on screen. I mean, as somebody who grew up with the original Star Wars trilogy, it wasn't that long after I watched the original trilogy that episodes 1, 2, and 3 started coming out. So I didn't really have that era of mystique about Vader where I just thought he was this really cold and, evil character. So it's kind of cool to see in this book that we're getting more of I think a lot of the way that people who maybe were children in the 70s saw Vader growing up, they had, 15, 20 years of that Vader to be like, this guy's a badass, he's scary, he's someone to be feared.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see more of that style of Vader.
Oh, yeah. When you see him throw the guy out of the ship, he's just like, no, I need this ship, I'm taking it, get out.
Yeah, exactly,
and he just throws him out, and he gets in the ship, and you're like, okay, you need that ship.
He even chokes out the guy who's starting to say, I'm sorry, it looks like we failed you this time, and he chokes him out like over the comm.
Over the comm, yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like that, you're in trouble. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying the book as well, and all the points you guys mentioned, I greatly enjoyed. I mean, I like the sort of humor too with 3PO's eyes not working. He's kind of commenting on how it's probably better off that he's unable to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
what's in the box?
Yeah, okay, so let's get to the box. Obi-Wan's got this box in his shelter that he's been holding on for Luke. Again, we got to remember that this is taking place between Episode 4 and Episode 5.
Yes.
So I think what's inside is some sort of hollow recording. Now, the only thing is, it can't reveal too much because Luke still has no idea that Vader's his father. But it's got to be some sort of hollow recording that maybe tells him more about the way of the Jedi, or maybe even, I know they kind of talk about Yoda, is it, in the fourth film? But maybe it's, I don't know, something to do with Jedi training. I know it's kind of lame to say that that's all it is. It's just that vague. But
I kind of have a theory.
Okay.
I think that whenever Leia sent R2 to his house, he might have used R2 to record something.
Oh, okay.
So
I can see that.
I have a weird thing that he might have recorded a hologram for through R2 and said, hey, this is what you need to do. I know I'm going to be gone after this point, so I can kind of see further in the Force than you can. Here's the steps you need to take.
Why did he leave it at his house?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Tatooine is always kind of that center point in the Star Wars universe. Like, everybody kind of always comes back to that point, and maybe it's going to find its way in Luke's hands somehow.
Well, and we know that Kenobi can kind of influence Luke from the grave, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Ghost Kenobi in one of the future issues being like, hey, Luke, check out my house.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, too.
Yep.
Seeing the first movie, it's like, I think Ben knew the entire time that he wasn't going home.
Yeah.
I mean, he has that moment where he sees Vader's like, all right, this is exactly where we needed to be, and he sacrifices himself so they can all leave. So it is interesting that he would have left a box for Luke if he had really never thought he was going back home. So it's going to be interesting to see what's in that box. Also, with this first issue, this first story arc over, I'm curious to know if we're going to see a time jump between this and the next story that comes out. So the series couldn't possibly take place between Episode 4 and 5 the entire time. Or could it? I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of proceed with that.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested for the next issue.
Absolutely.
So,
me too.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about This Week in Geek TV. And let's go ahead and start with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we were off last week, and we were at ComiCon, but we still caught up on what was going on with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Basically, they came back, if I'm remembering right, it's the episode where they kind of dealt with the fallout of Skye having powers, right? Okay.
There's a Kree who's hunting her down.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Basically, they all find out by necessity that Skye has powers. Because this Kree guy comes right into the base and he's like, Sif.
And Sif shows up, yep. So we get some great moments from her as well. We also find out that May is really into Thor.
Yeah.
And at Planet Comic-Con, we found out that Ming-Na Wen is really into Chris Hemsworth. So that was kind of a funny sort of nod. I'm sure it was an in-joke on the show, too. But, they kind of dealt with that, and we're glossing over that a little bit, but we'll talk about this week. This was really Cal's week to kind of show off his... I'm calling them the Brotherhood of Mutants because what else are you going to call these guys?
Yeah.
But like his sort of inhuman characters that he had sought out and captured. I gotta say though, the Drea De Matteo, I know her from before this show from Joey, which I'm sure nobody watched, but the spinoff of Friends, she was a regular on Joey and she was Joey's sister.
Does she raise her hands?
Yeah, she's raised her hands. So, what that power, man?
That's a pretty terrible power.
That's pretty terrible. And like the fact that
sad.
S.H.I.E.L.D. went through the trouble of capturing her and then building these gloves that would go over her hands instead of just unscrewing the blades from her fingers.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Maybe allocation of resources wasn't the best used right there. So, but overall, I did enjoy the episode. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the Sif episode or the first episode back from break.
Yeah.
They were kind of building up to this big showdown between these superpowered characters and possibly Skye having like an earthquake ruckus to take him out.
Yeah.
Didn't really happen.
No, yeah.
We learned that Skye is now directing the quakes into herself.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
And when I'm curious, I don't know Quake from the comics at all, but I
Okay.
feel like when I've seen images of her, she has like these gloves on.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Is it possible that she directs the Quakes into the gloves then?
And it's more controlled.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't
basically
read
that.
Fury's Secret Six or any of that,
Uh-huh.
so I have no idea. All I know about Quake is the one episode of Avengers: Earth Mightiest Heroes that she appeared on, and on that episode, they were totally expecting the viewer to know who she was already. So I was a little bit lost on that.
Well, they had Simmons come up with her cast.
They did,
that were-
which was a nice
yeah.
sort of nod. And
So if that is the case, it seems like they're going that direction.
and the character on the animated series. All right, guys. Sorry about the interruption there. Part of the reason we were trying to hurry through the show is that JT had a place he needed to be. He had to go ahead and leave, but we're going to go ahead and finish out the show. We're almost done anyway. We're just going to finish up with the TV, and then we'll just call it a night with you guys. So let's go back to where we were at on S.H.I.E.L.D. We were kind of talking about how we were waiting for this big build-up with Cal's Brotherhood, and it didn't really seem to happen.
Well, it was kind of like right as everything was coming to a head, the No-Eyed Man shows up and steals Cal.
Exactly,
runs
right.
off, and then kind of you've got May who resolves the situation with the super strength guy. You've got Mockingbird kind of resolves her situation, and then after everything's okay, Sky starts quaking everything.
Right, like
Yeah.
when it was least inopportune, like she could have helped long before that. And a point Jay wanted to make was he was hoping that as all these guys were going crazy fighting each other, that Sky would actually be the one to show up and use her powers to kind of level the situation, and then have them finally realize, oh, this is an asset we need on our team. This is not somebody we should be locking up or pushing away. She didn't really get that moment.
No.
It was just kind of a really kind of a sad moment, because after everything was done, she uses her powers and then she does everything she can to hold it inside and not hurt anybody. She ends up doing really bad damage to herself. So kind of sad, and we're really not sure what's going on with Cal now, and we're really not sure what's going to be going on with the team moving
I
forward.
still suspect that Cal is going to be confronted with his supposedly dead wife.
Okay.
I think that's where they're going with it. I think we had Whitehall die, and that somebody showed up, grabbed the body, grabbed the stuff from it, put it back in her body, and she's not dead yet. I know that's a bold prediction.
See, I didn't even think about that.
I know that's a bold prediction, but it's just they showed us the No-Eyed Man and her,
Yep.
and obviously they have a relationship, and he seems to have some kind of fortress where he does his stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see her again.
He
We'll
heals
see.
her. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, in the comic book way, it would make sense too if she just heals right back up. So that's an interesting theory. So I guess we'll have to see what happens on next week's Agents. Oh, no,
we got Bobby and Max
Yes,
still.
we need to mention that. So Hunter has been tied up.
Yeah, last
2
week
weeks
that
ago.
was I guess the end of the last episode. Hunter realized something was going on,
Yep.
and Mac had to subdue him. So this week we had Mac having Hunter locked up, and toward the end of the episode, well, I guess midway through, Bobby was like, "We need to bring him in."
Yep.
And then toward the end of the episode, we learn from Mac directly that he at least thinks he's working for some new version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And all we really get toward that end is we see a S.H.I.E.L.D. insignia on the wall. So we don't really know much about that. I don't know if you have
Yeah.
any speculation on that front. Or...
I mean, I had more speculation before I saw the teaser for next time. I wasn't convinced that it was S.H.I.E.L.D. It didn't make sense to me because the S.H.I.E.L.D. as we knew it still existed. Nick Fury and Colby Smolder's character Maria Hill, they've been involved with Coulson's camp since the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, I mean, since Captain America Winter Soldier. So, to me, there was just no question about there being another S.H.I.E.L.D. or even a splinter organization. This was S.H.I.E.L.D. as we knew it, all that was left of it. So, the fact that there's another S.H.I.E.L.D. cell out there that's in opposition to Coulson is frankly just strange to me. I'm really curious to see where this goes, but at the same time, I'm a little worried that this story might not be that great of a spin-off kind of coming off of this. I don't know. I still need a moment. I still need to care about this story.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that.
Yep. Yeah, we just don't have enough information yet.
Yeah. So moving on then, let's go ahead and talk about Arrow for the week.
Arrow. So just to recap, last time we had Ra's al Ghul offer the Ra's al Ghul mantle to Oliver Queen. And we also had Thea, like basically toward the end of the episode, we had that. And then also Thea offered herself to Nyssa. So immediately as the episode starts, we have kind of a reminder of that at the beginning. And then Ross warns Oliver that if he refuses, or I guess even if he doesn't refuse, that his city will turn against him and that he'll die alone. Then we also go over to Nyssa and Thea, where Nyssa tells Thea that she's not going to kill her because she wasn't in control of her actions. No surprise there. So as the episode continues, we have Ross actually introducing the Lazarus Pit. He doesn't call it that, but I should say we actually had a little bit of a spoiler on that, because at Planet ComiCon, Stephen Amell, somebody asked him about the Lazarus Pit, and he directly said, it is in the show. Like, no equivocation whatsoever. It is in the show. Yep. So I knew this was going to happen. I didn't expect them to be quite so clear about it. Like mid-episode, Nyssa comes back to Nanda Parbat. She's mad at Ross that he's not going to appoint her the new Ra's al Ghul, and she stabs him in the hand. He just walks over to the Lazarus Pit, puts his hand in there, pulls it out, things healed. Like I didn't expect them to be quite so clear on that.
Sure.
Thing, but they were. They didn't refer to it as the Lazarus Pit. He kind of said it was more like the Fountain of Youth. Mm-hmm. So Oliver is not interested in taking over the league, at least not initially. And Ross tells him he can kind of redesign their goals to whatever he wants them to be. But he's still not interested, so he leaves, and then Ross gives him permission to take Malcolm and Diggle with him. And it's not entirely clear immediately why he's being so generous, you might say. But then Oliver goes back to Starling City, drops off Malcolm at Thea's house, and I thought somewhat abruptly, well, actually, firstly, he goes back to the Arrow Cave, lets Nyssa go, and nobody else there understands that. But then somewhat abruptly, it's like suddenly we're back into crime fighting now. And I was like, wait, it didn't feel like we sufficiently resolved that, but the show goes on. So they meet this new guy with his lips sewn shut, Murmur. They find out later. And I've heard that he's a Flash villain. I don't know the Flash gallery very well. But yeah, I guess they're introducing him through Arrow. So they find out about Murmur, who's stealing diamonds, and they discover that these aren't like good diamonds; they're industrial diamonds. He's not stealing them for selling them; he's stealing them to use them. And they find out that he's stealing them to make armor-piercing bullets. Before Murmur uses those bullets, they capture a small group of his gang, and Oliver drops them off to Lance. And Lance basically says, I want nothing to do with you guys because you knew Sarah was dead and you didn't tell me, and I'm not happy about that. Everybody seems really brooding and unhappy in Arrow. But so he wants nothing to do with Oliver now. Oliver goes to Ray Palmer's office and finds Felicity and Ray Palmer together. So slowly, as the episode continues, you see that Oliver, when he comes back, he's realizing that kind of his city has moved on from him in a way, and Ross is not entirely incorrect that his city is uninterested in him. So Oliver tells Diggle, Thea, and Felicity, each on their own terms, about Ross's offer. And when Malcolm hears Oliver tell Thea, he warns Oliver that he doesn't have a choice. It's not an offer. Ross is telling him, you're going to be the new Ra's al Ghul, which Oliver doesn't quite understand right away. So now that Murmur has these industrial diamonds, they try to warn Lance and everybody at the police station that this is going to happen, but just at the same time, Laurel shows up to the police station, and she wants to make amends with Lance. He doesn't want to make amends with her. Felicity starts ringing on Lance's phone, and he's not interested in any of this right now, so he doesn't answer, and then Murmur attacks the precinct. So everybody's getting shot, it's chaos, and then Laurel runs away with cover from Lance, and Nyssa shows up. And I did not expect to see Nyssa there. That was kind of a surprise to me. It's like, why is she trying to save Laurel? But Nyssa shows up, starts fighting off Murmur's goons, and then Oliver and his group show up. They fight them all off, and then you have Oliver deciding he's not going to leave Starling City because the police officers at the precinct are basically, even if they don't like counting on him, they do count on him, I guess. And then I haven't talked much about the flashbacks yet because not a whole lot happened in them, but around this time you have Oliver and Akio in Hong Kong trying to get away. From last week they escaped Waller's kill squad, I guess, Oliver and Akio together. And during part of the flashback, Akio thought he saw his father and kind of ran off into the crowd. Later, Oliver sees Shadow in the crowd.
Interesting.
Which last we knew she was dead. I've heard it speculated that they've been given some sort of drug or something that's causing them to see people they're close to, which might be why Akio saw his father when he shouldn't have seen him. I don't know if that's what it's going to be. When Shadow died initially, I didn't really think she was dead. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's actually back. But the problem is, if she is back, it presents complications with Slade's story.
Yes.
Where Slade is very, like, why wouldn't Oliver have just said, oh, I found her a year later in Hong Kong, she's fine.
Yeah.
You know, so there's going to have to be, if she is still alive, there's going to have to be more with her, and she's probably going to have to die again, which there's precedent for in the show. We had Sarah alive, then dead, then alive, then dead. And we know she's died twice in flashbacks, essentially died. And we know that at some point she's going to end up with the League of Assassins. So I don't know if we'll actually see that in any flashbacks, but we know that she's not dead yet. So yeah, there's precedent for people who die in flashbacks to still be alive. But then back in the present, we have, after the precinct attack, Nyssa offers to help train Laurel, and I think it's more for her kind of connecting with someone close to Sarah. I've heard some people speculate that Nyssa and Laurel might start a relationship. I don't really see that. I haven't seen any hints of that, but I don't know. We'll see in the coming episodes. Oliver then tells Maceo that he rejects Ra's al Ghul's offer, and Maceo says, you don't reject Ra's al Ghul's offer. The choice has already been made. It's not your decision. Then Thea, very confused about this situation where Malcolm's at her house. She was going to kill him at one point, but decides not to. Malcolm was actually telling her to do it. She's kind of confused, doesn't really know what's going on. She goes to Roy's place and says, I don't know who I am anymore, and they start kissing, so I guess they're going back together. And then at the very end of the episode, we have, Murmur was actually captured during the police precinct shootout and turned over to Lance. But at the end, we have a few more of his goons in a room together, kind of, I guess, planning their next score, and they get attacked by someone in a green hood. The face is masked, you can't quite see it, and then after he shoots them, he drops down, and you clearly see that it's Ra's al Ghul, and he tells them, tell all your friends about this, or something to that effect. So basically, Ra's al Ghul is trying to poison Oliver's reputation, much like he promised. Not only is Oliver already alienated from many of his friends, but now we have somebody, essentially a fake arrow, going around trying to ruin his reputation. So that's where that episode ends. Go ahead. Anything you have to say about it, I guess.
Just that I think Arrow needs to tread lightly on flashbacks at this point.
Yeah.
There's too much that has happened, I think, at this point that should have come to the forefront, even in season 1 of this show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for me, it's kind of hard to believe so much happened that went unmentioned or went unreferenced or anything like that. Now, I know they've got to find a different way to explain every single scar on Oliver's body, but
I think as soon as they got to Hong Kong, they started, and maybe even before then, but they started kind of making it up as they're going along.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, maybe they have some big thing that's supposed to happen, like they have a very rough outline for each of the 5 years that he was supposed to be on the island, but I don't really know where they're going with it at this point. We'll have to see, I guess.
It just seems, and the best way I can describe this is, if you watch the show Star Trek Enterprise, it's a show that takes place before Kirk's crew, before Picard's crew. An alien race comes and annihilates the state of Florida, a massive alien invasion force, more for lack of a better term. And the crew of the Enterprise faced these guys that could destroy a planet, and apparently they take care of the issue and never mention it ever again. And it's like, if we're getting the same sort of territory with Arrow right now, where I think a lot of stuff is going down, a lot of major things, a lot of people dying over and over, a lot of people showing up who maybe shouldn't be showing up in these flashbacks based on what we learned just in season 1 of the show. Tread carefully is all I'm saying. I'm just a little concerned about how much is being thrown out there.
Yep.
So, but otherwise, the show sounds like it's doing great in the present day.
I'm still somewhat convinced that Felicity is going to leave the show to go to Ray Palmer's show. Also at Planet ComiCon, Steve said that someone from Flash was also going to be going.
Yes, he did. I don't know if we know who that is.
Yeah, he didn't say who specifically, but I was trying to speculate who might that be.
I don't know.
And the only thing I can really think is maybe Firestorm, because he's not been he's not a main character on Flash.
Sure.
And he did last we saw decide to go leave basically, so he could be a rogue on either show.
Well, and Stephen Amell also said that there is a set that is part of the Arrow set that's been there since
the
beginning.
I guess we should say, this might be a spoiler, but he was saying that basically toward the end of their shooting, they, and I think they're still shooting episodes now.
They are, yeah. They shot like episode 17, I think, recently.
But he said that they wrapped on a set that they have been shooting on basically since the beginning of the show, and they're never going to shoot on that set again. My prediction is we're going to see the Arrow Cave get burned down or get destroyed.
Okay.
You know, the bar, the Verdant area, something's going to happen so that we don't see that set anymore. And
Okay.
if there's any set that I think they've been shooting on since the beginning, it's got to be that one, right?
Okay, well, see,
So-
my thinking had been the Queen Mansion.
Well,
but-
we haven't seen that in a while now.
Okay, well, see, this I'm speaking as somebody who hasn't seen any of
Yeah.
season 3. So
They haven't been there since the whole Walter.
well, and that would
yeah.
be consistent because my thinking was, again, from a perspective of I've only seen through the end of season 2, is that Moira is pretty much the only reason we ever saw the Queen Mansion anymore.
Yeah.
So sounds like what you're saying is, and sorry guys that I haven't been able to catch up on the current season, is that since she's been gone, they really haven't done the mansion.
Yeah,
at
and
all.
actually, I think the last time we saw it was when Oliver sent Felicity there at the end of season 2.
Oh, really?
Because it was supposed to be safer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating to say the least.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in a while.
So okay, well then Arrow Cave sounds like a good vote.
Yeah, well, the other thing I was thinking is maybe, well, and this would not qualify as something they've been on for a while, but I know Stephen Mel bragged about the Nanda Parbat set, and I'm sure he would be sad if they wrapped on Nanda Parbat and were just done there, because it's a good looking set. I mean, it's like a castle basically.
Okay.
So I could see them being sad about that, but it doesn't stand up to the whole we've been shooting on it for so long. Maybe since the beginning of season 3 is what he meant, which would definitely be true. But yeah, my money's on the Arrow Cave, especially with Roz trying to kind of ruin Oliver's reputation.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of Ross dressed as Arrow fighting Arrow dressed as Arrow in the Arrow Cave,
Okay.
leading to
The
massive destruction of the Arrow Cave.
Okay.
We also got hints from Stephen Mel at Planet Comic-Con that the Green Arrow, like the fact that the show is still called Arrow, well, I mean, it's always going to be called Arrow, but the
Yeah.
fact that they still call the Green Arrow on the show, it's not a mistake, it's not like an oversight. They're planning on transitioning to a Green Arrow name.
He even suggested that maybe by the end of this season, the
That-
show is going to be so radically different from what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
So very fascinating stuff, especially with all these spin-off shows from Berlanti Productions coming out. Really seems like the TV universe might be the Justice League universe
Yep.
by the end of this season.
I could see Oliver needing to choose the Green Arrow like mantle, the name, the
Sure.
personality to separate himself from Ross Al Ghul.
The goatee,
as
the
Arrow.
jokes, everything to
Yep.
kind of rebrand himself.
Absolutely, yeah, I
Yep.
could see that happening.
So very fascinating stuff. Does that mean he'll like dye his hair blonde now? And, yeah. So
Let it grow out. Wear the flashback wig.
exactly right. Yeah. So well, in the interest of time, let's go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was the other thing he mentioned at the panel. Somebody asked him about the flashback wig. and
Oh,
he was
yes.
just like it is what it is.
Yeah, he's not a fan, but he wears it. Yeah.
So Flash was huge this week. So we got flashback to the pilot, actually, first episode of the season, where we were introduced to Clyde Marden. I don't remember what they called him in that episode, but he was in control of the weather. And now we met his brother, who was dubbed by Cisco Weather Wizard, which I don't know Flash comics very well, but my understanding is he is one of the primary Flash villains. He's one of the founders of a group called the Rogues, which we have now the Pied Piper, Hartley Rathaway, and there was somebody else who's from the Rogues that has already shown up, but I just don't know the lore well enough. So anyway, we had a flashback to the beginning with Joe and Fred Shire chasing, and by the way, Fred Shire was played by Al Sapienza. I had to check on that because you don't see much of him. You kind of see him dead with his face there, and I was like, is that guy from House of Cards that played Marty? And it totally was.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm predicting possibly it's not going to be all we see of Fred Shire dying in the beginning. Possibly he might even come back as a metahuman. I don't know. I haven't looked his history up. But basically it would be too coincidental for me if he dies on this night, especially right when the particle accelerator wave is coming, and we don't ever see him again after that. But I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Anyway, so Clyde shoots and kills Shire, and then he and his brother get away. The plane blows up, and I guess as far as Clyde knew, his brother was dead. So then we come back to the present day. We have Linda and Barry going out bowling, and they meet, who would believe it, Iris and Eddie just happened to be out bowling. And I saw a great screen cap where basically somebody had put a little caption that was to the effect of, it was showing Eddie when he sees Barry and Linda walk up, and he's got this look on his face just like, kill me now. Please don't let this happen. But yeah, so they're on a double date now, and at one point they bring a plate of hot wings, and Iris wipes off a little bit of barbecue sauce from Barry's face, and you can see basically in the background Eddie on one side, Linda on the other, not happy about this.
Okay.
And that will come back a couple times later in the episode for each of them, where each of them confronts Iris about this, and they're like, look, it's pretty clear you're still into Barry. But so we have Mark Martin, the weather wizard, attacking the morgue, trying to figure out who killed his brother. He gets out of the coroner that it was Joe West. And then we have Barry finding out about the situation at the morgue. So while he's bowling, he speeds over to the morgue, but on the way to the morgue, running right beside him is another Flash. He looks over, sees another Flash. It's like, what the heck? He stops. He sees all this stuff going on in the city block, but the other Flash is gone. And then he's like, okay, whatever, I got to go to the morgue, do my thing. So he goes there, and at the morgue, West and Barry figure out that the coroner was killed by Clyde Martin's brother. Well, I don't know if they figured out that it was Martin's brother at that point, but they're definitely speculating. This is they find ice at the scene,
Okay.
and they're like, this looks like it could be Martin's brother. And Cisco dubs him the Weather Wizard. So then Barry tells Wells about the double he saw, which Wells tries to pass off as a so-called speed mirage, which I don't know, I don't think we've heard that term before, but he just dropped it as if that's something we should expect.
Okay.
So then we have Barry and Wes driving around, and a storm starts up over their car, and a lightning bolt comes down, and Barry can, I guess, travel faster than lightning now, because he gets Joe out of the car, and then the lightning blows up the car. You have Iris's boss telling her that she needs to track down Harrison Wells, figure out what's going on there, question her friends. He's got a photo of Wells leaving Simon Stagg's place. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned this previously, but Simon Stagg was basically this guy that Wells killed to protect Barry earlier on. I think he has a bigger role in the comics, so it's actually kind of surprising that he died so early. Maybe he's not really dead. I don't know. Okay. But they're using this the death of Stagg as kind of an impetus for Iris and her boss, Mason Bridge, to be suspecting Wells of being kind of a bad guy. So Iris tells Barry about her suspicions about Wells, and Barry says, Harrison Wells is a good man. He's stuck to that all season. Harrison Wells is a good guy. He's been trying to help us all along. So Cisco, back at Star Labs, finishes what he calls the Wizard's Wand, and my understanding is in the comics, Weather Wizard actually has a wand, and that's how he controls the weather. So I think that must be some kind of reference, but I mean, it looks like a sonic screwdriver. I've heard the reference made a couple times.
Okay.
Oh, he built a sonic screwdriver. But yeah, so I don't know if Martin's going to end up having the wand and maybe reverse its function somehow. The point of the wand was to be able to keep him from using his powers. So if somehow in the future he ends up using it to use his powers, I guess that would be a reversal. But Barry tells Cisco and Caitlin about Wells' suspicious activity, and Cisco starts to think, maybe I did not take Joe's suspicions seriously and should have. So he starts to investigate his containment system that failed in the episode The Man in the Yellow Suit. Martin attacks the police precinct using a lightning bolt to paralyze Captain Singh, and Barry shows up and uses the wand to stop him. Cisco, back testing his containment system, has Caitlin, or wanting to test his containment system, has Caitlin keep Wells busy the next morning, or asks him to keep Wells busy the next morning. And then you have Joe saying Barry needs to look after Iris after the whole police station attack because he can't put anyone else in danger like that. He doesn't want anybody else to get attacked like the chief was, especially not Iris. So Barry has to go look for Iris. On his way to find Iris, he shows up at her workplace and finds Mason Bridge, who's like, hey, you should investigate Harrison Wells. I got this picture of him leaving Simon Stagg's office the night that Stagg disappeared. So now Barry's getting even more suspicious. And then we go back to Cisco with his containment chamber, turns the thing on, Reverse Flash appears inside. And he's like, that's strange. So then Joe, checking out, looking for Weather Wizard, finds Eddie in this building, and the two of them are wandering around looking for the guy, and he gets sucked out a window, and there's nothing Eddie can do. So then we have Joe on a pier with a broken leg, Weather Wizard out there threatening him, calls Iris and says, show up or I'll kill your father, basically. So Iris has to go. Wells and Caitlin at breakfast together. she's having a hard time keeping him there, and he wants to help. Well, he ostensibly wants to help track down Weather Wizard. So he's like, why don't you and I and Cisco go see if we can use the weather control systems or weather detection net or something to try to find where this guy is. And she's like, sure, I'll just go get these in a cup to go, or their coffees or their mochas or whatever. And she goes up to the counter, asks for to-go cups, looks back at the table. Wells is no longer there. And he left his wheelchair there. So she sees, basically, he can get up and walk around. Then, back at Cisco, a lot of stuff happens really fast in the last 10 minutes. But back at Star Labs, Cisco is realizing that the hologram, or the reverse flash inside his container is not reverse flash. It's actually a hologram. He's repeating the exact same lines from the man in the yellow suit that basically prove that it's not a real person in there. So then he looks around, he turns around, and Harrison's standing there. And then we have Martin on the dock, summoning a tsunami, which apparently you can do if you have weather control powers. Does Storm ever summon a tsunami?
Not directly that I'm aware of. Yeah.
I'm sure it was some sort of wind-related thing. But yeah, so he starts to summon a tsunami. But then we have Wells showing Cisco how he can duplicate himself. So he moves really, really fast, and basically there's two of him in one place at the same time, which he calls a speed mirage. So then he admits he killed Nora Allen, but that it wasn't his intention. He was there to kill Barry. And then he reveals that his true name is Eobard Thawne, which Flash comic readers will recognize, I believe, is the name of one of the Reverse Flashes. And that he is from centuries in the future, and that Barry Allen's speed is his key to returning back to his time. So Cisco offers to help him, but Wells is like, nah. But you've been like a son to me. You've shown me what it's like to have a son, or something to that effect. And then says, but I'm sorry, to me you've been dead for centuries. And then phases his arm through Cisco's chest, kills him, and that's the end of Cisco, at least in that episode.
Wow.
So we have Barry and Iris going to the dock where Martin is, and the tsunami's coming. Barry realizes, I've got to stop this. This is a problem. He calls Caitlin. Well, he either calls her or she calls him. I can't remember which one. But she's like, I got to tell you about Wells. And he's like, I don't have time right now. I need to figure out how to stop this tsunami. She's like, well, I don't know if you can even run fast enough to do that. But basically, he needs to create a vacuum in front of the wave or something. Sure. I don't know how that would work. But so he starts going really, really fast. Well, actually, first, he and Iris have a little kind of reveal where she reveals to him that that she actually, for the first time, I guess, is in love with him, and he reveals that he's still in love with her, which actually a couple episodes ago he said he didn't feel that way anymore, so it's kind of a reverse. But so they reveal that to each other, and then, because he has to stop this tsunami, he decides to reveal to her that he is the Flash. And he runs over to the tsunami, starts going really, really, really fast, and goes so fast that he accidentally travels back in time. And suddenly, he's back running alongside himself to the morgue, and stops, and that scene we saw earlier where he stops and looks around and various things are happening,
Sure.
That's where he is, and that's where the episode ends. So, the time travel is now part of the show. I mean, they've hinted at it in a couple previous episodes, but now it's a full-on part of the show.
No cosmic treadmill needed.
Not yet, at least. Maybe that makes it easier later. But yeah, so we have that. We have a dead Cisco is no longer dead, I guess. The whole episode got reset back to post-bowling area. So Barry knows Iris is in love with him. He knows to be suspicious of Wells. He doesn't know that Wells killed Cisco, though. And Cisco's not dead anymore, but he doesn't know that that was one possible outcome. He doesn't know about Eobard Thawne. But what I suspect is what we'll see is kind of now that he can time travel, now that he knows that's a thing, he mentioned a few episodes ago he wants to go back in time and try to save his mom. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see more toward the end of the season of him trying to use time travel in helpful ways and learning that it's a little bit more than he can handle.
Sure.
That he'll try to save his mom maybe, but then something he does there will end up in Iris dying or Joe dying, and he'll realize, well, it's actually a choice. I can't save everyone. Something to that effect.
Sure.
And maybe at the same time he'll finally learn about Wells. Yeah, I would have predicted it would be season finale type stuff when Barry learns about Wells. But based on how much they did in this episode, like, all bets are off now as far as I can tell. Like, it could be next episode. I don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
But this was a big, big week on Flash, for sure.
Yeah, and that was just this week you went over.
That was just this week.
So that was a lot.
Yeah.
I think we spent more time talking about Flash than we did about
Probably
Arrow
any
or,
other topic.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, I mean...
But for what it's worth, Gotham is still on break, so there's
yes,
not a lot
it
to
is.
say there.
So, all right, well, I don't know that there's a lot more to say. I mean, I haven't had a chance to see the episode for myself. You seem to be quite taken with it, so...
Oh, yes.
So that's, Flash is on track.
It is on track. I don't know where it's going to... I mean, we've had a few appearances of Grodd. I guess we might see more of him before the end of the season. It's possible he's just going to be kind of teased until season 2, though. I do think... I do wonder, I guess, if Wells is kind of the big bad, if they'll resolve that at the end of the season, or if it'll be more of a he's still around. I don't know. I don't know. I guess if Reverse Flash is a continual villain, or if he'll end up being contained somehow. I guess we'll have to see. Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of questions, and a lot of stuff happened this week.
All right, well, there you guys have it. That's This Week in Geek TV. Let's go ahead and go to our pick of the weeks then. Did you have a pick of the week ready?
I guess it's got to be Flash. I mean,
all right,
it's just so big.
you can do that. So your pick of the week is Flash. My pick of the week is actually going to be the Green Arrow run that was done by Kevin Smith and Brad Meltzer and most importantly Phil Hester and Andy Parks. I enjoyed reading the first part of it with Sound of Silence. Actually, that might be the second part. But I enjoyed what Kevin Smith did. I'm looking forward to the other stuff that I got at Planet Comic-Con this week. Had a chance to meet Phil Hester again, Andy Parks for the first time. So stand up, gentlemen. I like the work that they've done for DC.
I guess I could also have Planet Comic-Con as my pick.
There you go, Planet Comic-Con. We got a lot of information on that. So,
absolutely.
But that's, I think, our show for this week, guys. Absolutely. So definitely remember, join us on Marvel Puzzle Quest. You can find us under Cerebro616. That's the name of our alliance. So you have to search that. It's a private alliance. But we'll go ahead and accept your membership if you send us a request. So, but thanks for watching this, guys. We'll be back with more geek for you next week.
Have a good one.